So we're in a pop-up Think on Purpose action hour. And I just literally started this concept today, but I wanted to share really quick. If you have checked out the design masterminds from last week, there is ones about building intentionally. And we were talking about starting a podcast in some intentions here. And I wanted to quickly share, like, having the prep and plan is part of the strategy hour that we shared. So if you haven't watched the strategy hour, you're wondering about what we're talking about, strategy hour is something to comment that you want to check out. But prepping and planning is really about what is your mission, what is your passion for your project that you're building, the value that it's going to bring, the intention that your heart is setting for it, and what results that you want for yourself, your viewers, whatever it is that you're building. So mission, passion, value, intention, and results are something to think about when you're prepping and planning anything that you're building. Okay, so think about that. And we will come back at 10 to the hour and see how your intentions went. So before we left, we were talking about what we're building and really thinking about the intention behind the prep and plan. Did anything come up for you about this topic, or anything you guys want to mastermind about that maybe needs more thought process? This would be a really fun place to air it out, or anything that you want to share in mastermind. No? Shayna, did you have something?
Not to be contrary on the think hour.
Yes.
I'm often very comfortable in my head and thinking, and sometimes there's too much thinking.
Yeah.
And so hence the 15-minute retreat into my backyard to do a nature walk and be instead of think.
Yeah. I love that you say that, like being in that headspace too, because I think you've said the word headspace quite a few times today too. And that's something that I'm really focused on, like that I'm building is a blog to share, and calling it the Healthy Headspace. And it's really where I want to bring thought processes out and share about the day-to-day things that come through in more of a blog form. And I love that you say that you're in your head a lot, because that's something that, I've found really serves me, is what I call a think tank. And a think tank for me, which there's different names that people call it, but a brainstorming session or a brain dump, whatever, those words just never really resonated with me. And I call it a think tank because I put pen to paper and I release whatever comes to my head, whether it's a checklist of things to do to get them off of my plate, or some, disbelief or negative thoughts, or, gratitudes that come to mind, whatever the case is, but really getting it out. And I call it a think tank because it's getting it out. And I love being able to take a look at what comes through. So I call it a think tank because then you can see it. And then I take what I need from there to move forward in whatever the thought process is. And then I leave the other stuff, but then it's at least out and it's in the tank and I can see it, or I can choose to leave it. So that's something that I do when I'm in my head a lot, is that I will say, I'm jumping in the think tank and I'm doing the thing where I get it all out. And then I take a look at what's up there, what's happening, and then where can I go from there?
That's a great idea. I use a whiteboard for something kind of similar, and then like everything goes on the whiteboard, and then from there either I post-it notes to keep it on my radar, or I schedule it on my calendar, or whatever has to happen with it.
Yeah, I love the idea of the post-it notes. Every time someone talks about like having a post-it note system, I always am intrigued by that, because I am visual and it does need to be able to be seen by me. Like I'm very much a visual person. So in order to like have stuff and that you can move it out quickly, I always love when I hear people talking about they have a post-it note system, but I haven't committed to doing that for myself yet. So someday I think that will be something, because it's always something that my heart goes, oh, post-it notes, that's a great idea. So I love that. Okay, we are right at the top of the hour. I'm going to put a pin in this conversation and we can start celebrations. We have 3 minutes before we go to our intentions in this pop-up Think on Purpose action hour. And I'm curious, in all of the conversations that we've been having, is there anything coming up that anyone wants to discuss or share? What are you thinking? The big think. I was sharing about my think tank with you, and you both were like, oh, that sounds good. So I can share a little bit about that in my thought process. And that's actually why I thought to do a pop-up Think on Purpose hour, is because I do what I call a think tank, which is what some people may call a brainstorming session or a brain dump. Those words didn't really connect with me. So when I started realizing that I was in my head a lot, that it would clog my motivation and my energy to keep going with whatever I really said I wanted to do, I would put pen to paper. I would put pen to paper and just write out whatever came to my mind, whether that was a to-do list, whether that was affirmations that came to me, or disbeliefs about myself that I could catch, whatever was in my head. And I call it a think tank, because then I can look at whatever came out and then decide, are these things that are, need to move forward in some way? Are they things that I need to sift out and remove them from my tank and throw them out? That's really the thought process, is giving space and energy to know that when we're in our head too much, that's when it's like a tornado in there and we just can't get a handle on like where to go. And we need to shift that energy. And for me, a think tank is putting pen to paper, taking a look and seeing what you have, and knowing right from there is like one step that you can take action on, or just maybe the action is that you physically got it out of your head and you open the space up for whatever is meant to flow from there. So that is why this is the Think on Purpose pop-up hour, and that is why I call it a think tank. So go do your intentions. We will see you back at 10 to the hour. Have fun, be productive, and do what you intended. Okay, so we are at the bottom half of the second pop-up Think on Purpose action hour. And something that I was just thinking about is I completed my intention. And earlier today, it was an intention and I didn't complete it. And I did it this time, but there was a thought process and awareness that happened while I was doing it, and I completed it. Because, okay, I'll be like straightforward. Okay, so I said I was going to send out 2 cards of gratitude in one of the earlier action hours, and I got 0 out. I started doing the prep work for it, finding the pictures, getting all the pieces together, and I didn't get any of them done. So then in this last hour, I said I was going to do 4, because I wanted to complete the 2 I already said, and I wanted to stretch and get 2 extra ones out. So I completed 4, but right then the thought process is, why the heck can I get 4 done in this hour and I got 0 done in the other hour? And then there was like a deeper thought process that I was kind of banging through with Nicole on here as I was sharing that, is that I don't think, sometimes I think that I don't give myself enough space to actually complete the things, right? I kind of think that I might set myself up for failure. Sometimes that just ends up happening. And I'm really being conscious of the fact that might be something why this specific desire that I have to consistently be sending cards to people, sending that joy and love out, it's generally the thing that's on my list still to do. And I find it interesting because I'm thinking about how I don't think I really gave myself enough time, knowing that, I do put more thought into it than just sending like a store-bought card. It's not going to the store and getting a card and signaturing it and sending it out. It is very much preparing for a visual, preparing for how I want to actually use my words and put it together. So there's more of a thought process that goes with it than just doing it. And sometimes I think that we beat ourselves up for, the time frame and like the misalignment of a time frame to say I didn't do it. And then we get in our head space too much to say, this is why I didn't and why I avoided it, which sometimes isn't true, you know? Any thoughts around that, Nicole?
So I often say, like, I hate setting goals or like timelines for anything, right? Because like for me, like there's such a pressure that comes with it, and I don't do well with pressure, and I work in a very different capacity than most people. I feel like I am like I don't know, I'm such a feeling person, I think, like, and so if I'm not feeling it, I don't do it, and then in not doing it because I wasn't feeling it, then I surpass those timelines or the dates for the goals or whatever, right? So I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
What I love about that is that I am such a feeling person too. So now I'm thinking maybe that's, maybe I'm not feeling it about the specific card or the specific space. Like it could be anything, right? Like we could not be feeling it for multiple reasons. Maybe we just don't feel good. Or maybe, we have other things just happening that the energy is wrong. Like the energy isn't in the right space.
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier in one of the live hours, I think it was, about how I started a post the other day about, well, it was about how I talk to people and like ask them their passions, and there's a lot of people that don't have an answer for it. And I just quit in the middle because it's still a post I want to make, but it's still like percolating in me, right? So like it's not all come to the surface. So I just kind of had to let go, like, because I wanted to get that post out there for the day, but I just kind of had to let go and just know that it'll come to me and it'll be put out in the world and reach what it needs to reach at the perfect time, and just giving myself grace and letting go of any pressure that came with that.
Okay, I'm gonna just pause and say I love that, because I'm one of the people that will, put that pressure on me, like, oh, I need to do this. And then even when I don't feel like necessarily doing something, I will power through it and I will do the thing. And I don't feel anything. And I am such a feeling person. So girl, you're giving me permission to say, stop doing that and pay attention to what feels right, what feels good, and move in that energy in that space, or stop moving in that energy. And I love that you said that you started it and it's still there, because I never even thought really about saving the start of a post. Like when I started, I'm like, oh, and then half the way I'll get halfway through it and then the energy will stop, like you were sharing, and I'll just stop the thought process and I'll just quickly end it. Like I'll actually put it out there with it half-assed like that. So now you're inspiring me to say, stop doing that, fully let it like marinate, to like see what it actually is meant to be, and give it the space to fully like grow from there.
Yeah. And I've totally like done the same thing, like how you said, you just like end it and then you're like, okay, well, this is it. I'm putting it out there, like what the fuck ever, right? And I've done that too, and the feeling within me is different, but then also the results and the engagement that I get on those particular posts aren't as great as the ones that I let, and just like you said, like marinate and let the words just come as they're gonna, and let it be what it is. Like,
Yeah, that's so true too. That would be really interesting for me to go check. Like the ones that I know I fully got my thought out, was there a better response? Or, did I get the purpose across and was it received? Like, how was it received? Or was it?
Mhm.
And then when
Yeah.
it's the half ones that I know that I rushed through, that I was like, oh, I can't finish this thought. Like, what were the thoughts about the results that I had? Because I could probably tell you just by looking at it. So love the
Mhm.
deeper thinking in that. Love that mastermind and this time together. Thank you, Shayna and Nicole, for being in the first Think OP action hour for pop-ups. And I'm going to be turning it over to Coach K